What's up, everyone? Ryan from Oakland Ghosts here once again with a Deluge-focused tutorial. I guess it's a tutorial. This is part 2 in a series where we're building an entire song from scratch on the Deluge using only stock sounds and the internal synth engine, with the hope of, you'll learn a couple of the tips and tricks that I use to make songs, and maybe you'll learn a little bit more about the Deluge as a whole and how you can use it in your own workflow. I'm on community firmware 1.21. Someone asked about that, but everything I'm doing here you could do on any version of the Deluge. It doesn't matter. It's not firmware dependent. It really doesn't matter. If you want to check out the first episode, I'll post a link up in the corner there, but this is what we built this beat. Groovy little something, huh? Groovy little something. I guess melodic house, melodic techno. I don't know. You let me know. I suck with genre identification, but it's got some fun. So if you want to learn how we put that drum beat together, go check out episode number 1. This is episode 2. We're going to start building a custom bass patch from scratch using the internal synth engine. Someone mentioned in the comments of that first video, hey, you should hook up a TB303 and show how you're connecting those two and make some acid kind of sound, because that'd probably work good with this. I think you were right, sir. The problem is I don't have a 303. I do have a bunch of other synths that can get pretty acidy, but this is also a Deluge focused series. So instead, you gave me the great idea of, let's see if we can make a 303 kind of acidy bass style sound on the Deluge from scratch, make our own. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's give it a try. If you don't know, the way that you make a custom synth is, first we're just going to get a new track. It's going to default into going into your synth library. I have my own patches in here, of course, but if you want to create like an initialized fresh from scratch patch, you just hold shift, you hit synth like so, and there you go. Probably going to want to be pretty low. Now if you're still following along, I have set the key to D minor. So if you want to follow along from the last video and continue with this one, I am in D minor. Again, the way that you do that, of course, is you just hold scale, you pick your root note, and then you hold shift scale to change from the different scales that you can choose from. D minor, that's what we're working in. We're going to be doing subtractive synthesis. That's what we're going to be focused on. That is the East Coast school of synthesis, the Moog version, if you will. The way subtractive synthesis works, if you don't understand it, is you get an oscillator going, and then using a filter, you shape that sound by taking away some of the harmonics or subtracting some of the harmonics. That's why it's called that. But yeah, that's what we're going to focus on. When you default init patch, that's kind of what the Deluge defaults to anyway. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the type of oscillator that we are using. So here we go. It defaults to square. You will notice in here that there are many different options. So you got sine wave, got triangle, and you'll notice those aren't very harmonically rich. They're I would describe them as smooth sounding, I guess. Squares got a lot more harmonic contact going on. Then there's analog square. I like the analog versions of their square and saw in the Deluge engine, by the way. Here's saw. That's probably the most harmonically rich oscillator source. And I don't know if you could really tell the difference between the two. Let's see. So that's just the digital saw. And here's the analog saw. They're very close. You can hear it up here a little better, maybe. This just sounds a little thinner to me. You hear the difference? So I'm going to go with analog saw. I believe a 303, again, I don't have one, but if I'm not mistaken, it has both pulse or square wave and a saw. You could choose between the two. Because we don't have the same style of filter as the 303 on the Deluge, I'm going with saw. It's more harmonically rich. And, when I think of acid bass, I'm thinking of that resonant, crunchy ass filter, right? We can't quite get that same filter. I think that there's like an 18 volt filter. It's a weird number on the 303. The Deluge does have a 12 volt and a 24 volt ladder filter. So we're going to use the 24 when we get there. I'll explain it when we get there. But I think think starting with something that's very harmonically rich and kind of rough is going to help us. It's going to help us out in the long run. So there we go. We got our type. And right now we're only using one oscillator. There are 2 oscillators on here. We might add another one later, although I'm pretty sure that the 303 is only a single oscillator synth. We might add another one just to give it a little more body. We'll see. So the next thing we're going to want to do is kind of adjust the envelope a little bit. If you don't know what an envelope is basically shaping, well, by default, I should say. We do have 2 envelopes on here and we're going to use both of them. But the envelope 1 defaults to being the shape of the gate that's turning the sound on. So if you didn't have an envelope on your VCA, this is an oscillator just goes. It never stops. It doesn't care if you're pressing the button or not until you put an envelope on it to shape that gate a little bit. So the Deluge has, a lot of people say that it's so confusing on the panel. I can't remember any, like, you don't really need to remember. Everything's written out and it's pretty clear. I mean, I'm not going to say I don't forget where some things are, especially with some of the community features that were added after it was printed. But for the main things that you need on the Deluge, it's laid out pretty freaking clear. And the way you get to all these different things is by holding shift and pushing the button. So we're going to look at envelope 1. It's labeled right here. We got attack, decay, sustain, release. So attack, here, I think I have a drawing in here that I can. So your attack, when you push the button, the attack is how quickly it goes from no volume to full volume, right? So the more attack that you add, the more it's gonna fade in. Let's go all the way. You hear how it's kind of fading in, right? So that's what attack does. It's from when you push the button to here, how much it kind of fades up to full volume. Now the decay, which is the next one, this one down here, the decay is how quickly it goes from that attack volume down to your sustain volume. And what your sustain volume is, that's basically the level that it's the volume while you're holding the button. So if I turn this down, it goes down, right? So when you have, if this were lower, the attack would go up to full volume, decay down to your sustain volume while you're holding the button, and then the last one is your release, and that's how much it's going to fade off of that. So on the release, if I crank it, I'm not holding the button anymore. If I hold it, full volume. When I let go, fades off. So the release is how quickly it fades from your sustain volume off to 0. That's your basics. That's as basic as I'm going to get with envelopes with you guys. There's better videos out there, but hopefully that makes it make a little more sense. Now for the 303, I only want it on when I have it on. So all I'm going to deal with on there is the sustain. And that's basic. So basically it's like a pulse. It's just a gate. It's either on or off. That's it. And that's all I want for that. So that's the first thing we're doing. Boom. Ta-da. All right. Next step is we're going to start messing with the filter. So the filter, I'm going to just roll it down a little bit and I'm going to crank the resonance because that's what's giving you. Right. Now we could change these values later, and we will. I just want to get started with something that's a little closer to sort of acidy, I guess. So the next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make a patch. We're going to want to have the filter be controlled, that filter cutoff. So this, right? We're going to want that controlled by the second envelope. So the way that we do that is you hold shift, and this one up here is your frequency. This is your low pass frequency. So that's this knob right now. And what I want to do is I want to patch that to my second envelope over here. Now you can see what it's done is it's saying that envelope 2 is controlling the LPF low pass filter frequency. This value that's in here is how much. It's like an attenuator. So if I had it on max, it's going to open it all the way. If I have it lower, right? And again, I don't know the exact value that I want here. We're gonna have to figure that out as we kind of build the patch, but this is also something that I think I'm going to want to automate, this envelope, how much the envelope is opening up that filter. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go over to custom 2 and 3 here. You could do this on any of them, but I don't really use, for this patch, I don't think I'm going to use these ones. So I'm going to assign this knob, or excuse me, assign this envelope attenuator to this knob. And the way we do that is, if we were doing it from scratch, I'd go frequency. That's my patch, envelope 2 to LPF frequency, right? Now I'm going to hold learn, and I'm just going to turn the knob. And there you go. Now this knob is going to control that value. So that way, you know, once we kind of build up a patch, we can just easily, without having to do all the shift buttons, we can just twist that knob until we kind of fine tune and dial in where we want it. So there we go. So now we're getting that, which is pretty key to a 303 sound, I think. We're going to want to fine tune this envelope a little bit. I don't think we want any release. Sustain. Maybe we'll turn it down just a hair. And then decay, I think that's the one we're really going to want to mess with a little bit. Attack, I don't want any attack. So I just want it to start and then fade out. So, if I had attack on there, it goes wow. Right? I don't want any of that. I just want it to start at the peak and come down. Okay? So that's why I'm killing the attack. Decay is the one that we're going to want to tweak. That's how fast it's going to do that. So that's a real slow one because I'm adding more decay. Here's a real fast one. Make sense? This is another one. This is another one we're probably going to want to have to fine tune once we kind of get a pattern in there. So I'm also going to assign this one, the decay of envelope 2, I'm going to assign that to this knob. So again, we're going to hold learn. I'm going to turn the knob, boom. Now it's the decay. So we can just kind of dial that in later if we come over here at another time. So we can go back. I think we've got kind of our basic sound in there. Now we got to start thinking about, by default, the polyphony is polyphonic. We're never going to play 2 notes at the same time. A 303 doesn't do that. What a 303 is kind of known for is the way it kind of slides into notes. So monophonic could do that. We would go monophonic, and then right below that is portamento. That's your glide. Right? We're definitely going to want some portamento. I don't know how much, but I think legato might actually be better. What that'll do is it won't kind of re-trigger every time. It'll do the slide, but it won't necessarily re-trigger the attack. So it won't go like this when it slides into notes. So you just kind of get that smooth slide. I think that's about as close as we're going to get. Yeah, we can leave portamento at 10 for now. So now we've set up our basic synth. The next step is we need a pattern. So I don't have an idea for a pattern. I haven't thought that far advanced, but I do want to kind of dial in that sound a little bit. I want to get a good idea of if this sound is close to what we're going for. So we need to generate something, and the way I'm going to do that is with Euclidean sequencing. And if you don't know what that is, basically, I'm going to do why don't we do a 2-bar pattern here? Basically what Euclidean will do is you're going to select how many notes you want to place on a row by pushing in and twisting this knob. And it's going to place notes along. The more you twist, the more notes it's going to add, and it's mathematically going to keep them equidistant from each other. Okay. So it doesn't have to be they could be off beats. They could be all over the place if you only pick 7 notes or 4 notes or whatever, but it'll just kind of, I don't want to say randomly because it's very mathematically controlled, but it'll feel a bit random. So I'm going to add some in there. This is the bass note. I shouldn't say bass note necessarily. It's the root note, right? So I want that to have quite a few. So I just Euclidean sequenced a bunch in there. Now I'm going to do some up here as well. Going a full octave slide is usually a pretty safe choice. So let's add some here. So again, I'm going to hold the row and I'm going to push in and I'm going to twist this knob to add some notes. Let's do maybe a little bit less. And I'm going to slide these ones. I don't want them to be on the same notes. So at least on the beginning here, I'm going to slide these guys over a bit. And you can do that by holding the row, pushing this in, and just twisting it. That's probably pretty good. Let's try that. So these ones are going to be a problem. yeah, we're already on the right track. I think the next thing I want to do is I'm going to add a third. That's another just kind of safe bet. I'm just picking safe bets with notes. I don't know if I'm even going to keep this pattern. It's mostly just to kind of generate something that sounds cool so we can kind of dial in the sound. So again, I'm going to use Euclidean sequencing. I'm going to hold this and push in, add a few notes. Let's add a bunch. And we're going to slide that fool over. Whoops. Like that. That's already sounding pretty sick. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do now to get that kind of slide effect that the 303 is known for, you got to have the notes overlap a little bit. So let's see if we can get something going there. So I'm going to leave the cutoff and the resonance where it is for now. Let's play with those custom knobs we made, so how much the filter's doing. I like my bass to be blue. I mean, that's sounding pretty acidy. So if I have less decay, you can see how fast that drops. So we're using the 24-bit ladder filter. You can change your filters by pushing in, but that's pretty good. I think I'm going to add a little bass though. I think the 24 dB ladder filter is going to work best for this. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to change to our EQ. I'm going to pump it up a little bit, turn this down a little bit, just a hair. That sounded pretty acidy, but I bet we could do a little more. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little saturation. You see how much that opens it up. So saturation is basically like if you were cranking it through a preamp. Think of it like that. I think it definitely needs some delay. You can add some fifths too. right, so the next piece that I'm going to want to do, I do want to add a second oscillator. Now the way you do that, this is by default, it is a 2 oscillator synth. I don't believe the 303 is. I believe it's a single oscillator. And there's a couple things you could do here, but to activate it, you have to select oscillator 2 and you got to turn it on. If you don't turn it on, it does nothing. We're going to change the type. One thing you could do is you could maybe make a sub oscillator out of this so that it kind of kicks under it. I think I'm going to stick with the saw. I don't think a sub oscillator is going to sound great on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transpose this up 1 octave, but then I'm also going to detune it just a hair, just so the frequencies are rubbing against each other just a little bit. It'll make it sound a little fatter. Let's play that real quick. So I don't want it that loud though, so we're going to knock it down. Probably only half volume. I don't want it too loud, but I think what this is going to do, it's going to make it sound a little fatter when we open it all the way up. Yeah. So I think we're going to want to turn the volume down just a little bit so we can hear our drums. Sweet. I don't know, guys. This actually went a lot faster than I thought it would. This sounds pretty sick to me. This sounds, if not exactly like a 303, I mean, what does? It sounds pretty dang close, and if nothing else, it definitely sounds acidy, right? What you could do at this point is you could either play your attenuator. Again, this is the attenuator of how much envelope 2 is controlling that frequency. So every time a note's triggered, it's hitting that decay, and it's how much it's going to open that filter. So you might want to play that live, you know. Maybe we can figure out. You just got to find that. You could also play the cutoff yourself. That's pretty good. So I'm just trying to find the main spot where I like it. So I could always turn down. So there you go, guys. I think we've proven the point. That is how you can get a kind of acid sound on the Deluge with the internal synths. Not so hard. I mean, that actually came together a lot quicker than I thought it would. I think at this point, what I would do is I would actually go in and kind of write a pattern that I like, or maybe just start from scratch with the Euclidean like we did here and try something different. See if I got something else that kind of just connects up and pops right and feels the way that I want it to feel for this song. But for the purposes of, you know, building the synth, Euclidean is a great way to do it because it's just a fast way to kind of lay some notes down, move them around, and be like, oh yeah, that's kind of pleasing. I mean, I don't hate this pattern. It definitely goes with it, but it might not be what I want. So that's kind of what I would explore next. I would just probably dial in a patch that I prefer, that I think sounds really good. And then, you know, we'll move on to the next part. I think I'm going to call it for today. That's how we come up with an acid synth. I hope this was informative. I hope it was helpful, or at least interesting. If it was, considering hitting that like or subscribe or that hype so that it gets out to more and more people who have a Deluge and are looking for cool Deluge content. We'll continue this series next week with, I don't know, maybe we'll do chords or a pad, or we'll do something else with synthesizers that isn't an acid bass. I can say that. If you have ideas, hit me up in the comments. Let me know what we should add next to this song. I don't know what kind of song it is. It's sounding kind of acidy house, maybe. I don't know. Hopefully it sounds interesting though. Thanks again for joining me. I will catch you guys next time. I'm going to do a little jam here, and then I'm going to call it. So here we go. Thanks guys. Ryan from Oakland Ghosts. Ryan out.